about conversations, particularly hard conversations. Now, I have to be really honest, I am not the human that avoids hard conversations most of the time. There are times where I find myself doing that, but for the most part, I lean into saying the hard thing. In fact, it's something that I pride myself on. I know that this doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, but for me, it just does. I'm love haggling over car prices. I love when I travel to other countries and we can, bargain, go back and forth. Haggling, I guess, as well, right? Like until we can come up with a good price. It's just fun. In fact, I didn't realize this at the time, but when I was a kid, my dad told me that I needed to be on debate team and I needed to be an attorney, a lawyer, because not only do I like arguing, but I'm really, really good at it. Now that I have a teenager, I'm not as thrilled with being on the other side of someone who, oh, in fact, this morning I drove him to surf camp and I said something and he argued just for the sake of arguing. He goes, I have to say the opposite of whatever it is that you say. And that's such a good point because there is a difference between arguing for the sake of arguing and having a good, healthy, difficult conversation, right? And most of us just don't like to feel uncomfortable. This happens personally and professionally. We just stray away from it because we don't like the feelings that come with hard conversations and difficult conversations. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is that because we avoid the hard conversations, we actually have this snowball effect of it becoming worse and worse and worse over time. Because the truth is, we are avoiding saying something that needs to be said. And as the leader, it's our job to say it. This, we talk all the time about like not my circus, not my monkeys, and delegating, having boundaries, not taking on responsibilities that are not ours. But we often avoid responsibilities that are ours to hold. And so we have to have the difficult conversation. This applies in any leadership role, even as a business owner. I recently had a private client who had an employee, someone on their staff, who gave them some difficult feedback. They said the hard thing. And when we had our coaching call together, she said, I knew this weeks ago. I could see this happening weeks ago, and I just didn't say it. And I put my employee in the position of having to be the leader and say the hard thing. And that's not what we want to do. We don't want to have others doing our jobs because we're failing to do so. We're going to jump into that today. Like, I want you to think about what that conversation is that's sitting in your head right now. You probably don't have to think too long about it. When we're avoiding something, it takes up more and more and more space in our head, and it gets worse and worse and worse as time goes on, to be honest. And it could be an employee performance issue. It could be with someone in their working relationship with you. Maybe they're undermining you, or you're having a difficult time finding common ground to be able to work together. Maybe it's with your own boss. Maybe it's something that's been building for a long time that you're avoiding talking about that needs to be addressed in order for things to improve organizationally or on your team that you need to be able to say to your boss. But instead of saying it, you've been rehearsing it in the shower. You've been laying awake at night thinking about it. In fact, you probably like think about it, fall asleep, wake up, think about it, fall back asleep, wake up and think about it. And then you're counting down the time to get up for the day. And then you get up for the day and you probably feel like you're dreading it because it's another day that you were supposed to do or say the thing and you aren't. And it just still is not happening over and over again, right? Like day after day. And what no one really talks about is the cost associated with not having the conversation. So your brain is working on saying, I don't want to have this conversation and I don't want to address this thing because the cost of doing that means I feel uncomfortable. They might not receive it the right way. I might say it the wrong way. Um, It might cause more issues. People might not like me. Other people will talk about me. Maybe I'll lose my job. Like we create all these scenarios, and our brains are just trying to keep us safe and keep us from taking risk. And we're not acknowledging the cost of not saying it. We're only thinking about the cost that might happen if we do say the thing. So the longer you wait, the harder it gets, right? And unfortunately, that story that's going on in your head every day only gets worse every day because like you thought of like the worst case scenario today, but wait, tomorrow it'll be even worse and you'll be thinking about something all the more dramatic tomorrow on what could go wrong, right? And unfortunately, what we don't want to acknowledge is that whatever the situation is that's not being addressed in the conversation that's not being had, the other people know it. We like to tell ourselves that like we're hiding it, and I'm sure there are instances where people don't know it, but more often than not, people know. They might not know exactly what you're going to say or what's going to happen, but they know things are happening. People can feel when a shoe is about to drop. And you as a leader allowing that to amplify and augment and get worse and worse and worse over time is a real disservice to your credibility and trust building on your team. It's a disservice to how people should be living their lives and their jobs and doing the things that they need to do because you aren't stepping up to do the hard thing, right? They might not know why, but they feel it, and then they end up filling in the blanks with their own stories, which get worse and worse and worse and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Like, like full truth. I had a private client, so one of my longest running private clients, and sometimes she would text me and she'd be like, "Hey, can we talk?" And my brain was building in all these horrible situations and scenarios of like, what did I do wrong? What did I screw up? Is she unhappy? And it was never any of those things, but that's what we do, right? Our brains create these stories. And so your team is creating these stories, and then they're watching your inaction. If it's someone on your team that's not doing something they're supposed to be doing, they see you allowing that, right? Like they know that your no action is action and you're co-signing on it, right? So not only are they potentially feeling tension and stress, and that's getting worse, but you're very subtly and subconsciously saying, this is what I allow on our team. This is how I operate, and you can operate the same way because I lead by example, right? Like you are setting the tone. Gallup did a study called Employee Turnover is Preventable but Often Ignored. And they identified that 42% of employee turnover was preventable. But interestingly, in nearly half of those cases, the employee left without their manager ever actually having a real conversation with them about their concerns. In fact, the data tell us that people leave because of their managers more than anything else. They aren't leaving because of salaries. They aren't leaving because of job expectations or job duties. They aren't leaving because of work-life balance. They aren't leaving because of the time commitment. They're leaving because of their managers. And if we aren't serving them well by having hard conversations, then we're really missing out on being a good, strong leader for them, right? Um, I mean, think about that. Like people that walked out the door, the conversation that you're avoiding with them may have prevented that. It may have prevented that. So your hard conversation is creating retention issues, right? So how do we fix this? How do we turn the ship? How do we make this better? And I am sharing this because I was a leader who avoided hard conversations. I have always run to like hard conversations and debates. But when it came with the added pressure of my team and those people that were reporting to me, it became scarier. It was bigger. It felt like more was at stake for some reason. And I had to get myself back into the mindset of being the leader that is willing to risk the relationship because the other side of the hard conversation is credibility and it's trust and it's retaining our staff, our talent. It's investing in other humans' growth, which is my job as a leader, is to help grow leaders, right? And I found that it was never as bad as I thought it was going to be. most of the time, right? Like it usually is not as bad as those stories that I was creating in my head, right? So, one thing that you can do to help you actually identify the cost of you not having this conversation, right? The cost of you allowing life to go on in your job without addressing the things that need to be addressed is just name the cost, right? So, like, do a name the cost practice because our brains are creating the cost of what might happen if we have the conversation or when we have the conversation, but it's not thinking about the cost that's already happening. Like, you're already paying that price, you're already paying that cost, right? Of not having the conversation. That cost is currently happening. We just don't like to acknowledge it or admit that it's there. So specifically, what are you paying the price for? Is it their performance is sliding because you're not addressing it? Is it your own integrity of who you are as a leader? Is it losing trust and credibility on your team? Is it reduced, efficiency on the team because things are happening and falling through the cracks because you're not having that conversation? Really think about the current actual cost that's already happening and put your focus into that instead of the potential costs of what may or may not happen when you have the conversation because that cost that's currently happening becomes your reason to have the conversation. It becomes your reason to actually follow through and make that happen. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a script or a perfect opener. You just need to sit in the discomfort and have the conversation long enough that you can say what needs to be said. So let that cost that you're already paying right now become your motivation and your driving reason to execute and step up and have that conversation. So when you are leading with the cost of silence, right, and not having the conversations, it doesn't even matter if it goes perfectly or not, or if it's absolutely messy. It just needs to happen. So try that exercise and see if you can identify the current cost instead of projecting imaginary costs and anchor into that as your motivation to execute the difficult conversation that needs to happen. These conversations are not going to get easier by waiting. But your capacity to have this, to stay regulated and to do those hard things and say those hard things with care and intention, that's the work of you getting better and you growing as a leader. If you want to work on this, this is, an actual skill of navigating hard conversations without like destroying the professional relationship in the process. This is the exact work that I do, and I'd love to talk to you about working together. If that's something that you're interested in. amycapello.com. You can email me at info@amycapello.com. But we have to find a way to have these hard conversations, and I'd be more than willing to partner with you. If you have a current situation that you're going through and you just want to throw it my way, I'd be more than happy to send you some ideas or suggestions. So feel free to shoot me a DM, send me a message, an email, and I'll be happy to see what we can come up with together. All right, it's been wonderful. Go have that hard conversation, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.